In this video, I'm going to be unboxing as well as giving you my first impressions on the Hawke Endurance ED 15 to 45 by 60mm spotting scope, and we're going to start right now. Hello and welcome to Best Binocular Reviews. My name is Jason. Due to the overwhelmingly positive response and feedback that I got from you guys in my first ever unboxing video of these Vortex Diamondback binoculars, I've decided to continue on for the time being with this type of video or this format of video whereby I open up a box for the very first time live on camera and give you my completely unfiltered as well as unscripted thoughts as I do so. I feel in some ways this could be quite interesting. But I do probably digress a little bit more than usual because I'm not following a script, and I definitely a lot more, so please forgive me for that. Anyway, I also feel that it's quite a nice way for me to showcase to you future reviews that you can look forward to on the site. So next in line for a review on BBR is not a pair of binoculars at all, it's a spotting scope. It comes from Hawke Sport Optics. It's their Endurance ED 60mm scope. I think the one I've got here is the angled version. I'm not entirely sure, we'll see once we open up the box. And also included is a variable magnification eyepiece, giving you a range of between 15 and 45 times. So enough chatting, let's get on with the unboxing. Right, so welcome back to this end of the BBR table. And the first good look at the Hawke Endurance ED spotting scope box that comes in its traditional white color. I mean, I've reviewed quite a lot of Hawke Endurance ED products, well, Hawke products actually, and pretty much they all come in this very classy looking, I think, box design, which I kind of like. Very minimalist. Right, so that's the box. There's not too much to show to you. So let's take a look inside and see what we've got. Okay, so there it is. It's quite loosely packed. I wasn't expecting that, to be honest. Anyway, it's quite a lot of packaging, so I think it's fairly safe inside it. Okay, so what we got? Okay, let's start off. Here's obviously a cleaning cloth. As you can see, it's pretty generic, sort of something that you find with many binoculars and spotting scopes. The actual quality of the material is very fine. I wouldn't say quite microfiber, but it's very fine material. So in general, as I would normally say, this kind of cloth is perfectly fine for dusting very lightly the lenses, perhaps in an emergency situation, sort of out in the field and the like. But for thoroughly cleaning your lenses, I would still recommend getting a proper lens cleaning kit. And how to do that I have an article which I'll link to down below. So yeah, so that's quite a basic lens cleaning cloth, which for quite a high-end scope was a little surprising, to be honest. Anyway, let's continue on. So see what we got here. Okay, so we've got a couple of lens covers. These are going to be for the actual eyepiece, which is in a ways, this is a good sign, because what it means to me is that you can actually remove the eyepiece from the actual scope. And the reason I say this is a good sign to me is the fact that lesser quality and cheaper scopes quite often come with eyepieces that can't be removed from the scope and are stuck into it. So this obviously means I'm pretty sure that we're going to find that the eyepiece on the Endurance ED spotting scope is going to be removable, which is great because it means that you can actually swap it out and replace it with a different eyepiece. So maybe you get a wide angle eyepiece or a fixed focus one, for different applications than it were. So that is good. Oh, something else in the box over here. So a quick look. So here's the instructions or manual. It feels quite chunky. So yeah, but as is quite common, this manual is written in whole bunch of languages. So there, as you can see, English, Dutch, French, Spanish, and Italian. So to be honest, it's very basic. I think you only get 2 pages. So very basic information: mounting, focusing, the eye cup, caring, and then the information on the warranty. Now I do know that Hawke has a lifetime warranty, I think in the States. But then, yeah. So here in Europe, it's limited to 10 years. I think that's some sort of legal thing or something like that. Oh, that's quite interesting. So here it says that the eyepiece has a 2-year warranty. So the actual eyepiece comes with a separate warranty to the rest of the scope, which now we can be definitely sure that the eyepiece is going to be removable from the actual scope itself. Okay, so that's the very basic instruction manual, and that's it. Right, so the first look at the stay on body cover. From first look, it looks really nice, doesn't it? It's quite a nice design. It seems to fit nice and tightly onto the scope, although yeah, to be fair, there's some packaging underneath that we'll need to get through first. But yeah, in general, on the first impressions, this looks really nice. The padding I can feel is quite relatively thick. I mean, you don't want it too thick on a scope because, to be honest, I actually don't, unless I'm going out in really bad weather, I won't actually use these stay-on covers very much because they just make the scope a bit too bulky and cumbersome for my liking. So you want padding, definitely, if you do need it, but not too thickly so it makes the actual scope too unwieldy. But this is a nice compromise between padding and sort of keeping the scope in a nice compact shape. As you can see, it has its own carry strap, which will link through to there, so it'll go around your shoulder, which has its shoulder pad over there, and obviously can be adjusted by length, and has these twisters so it doesn't get tangled up. Okay, so as you can see from the design, this stay-on cover, what it means is that you can actually remove parts of it. So over there you would remove the front, here the eyepiece, and over here the focus wheels will stick out. So you can actually keep the cover on whilst you're using the scope, which is great. So in bad weather, and then underneath here, this is where the foot will mount onto your tripod. So the cover does look nicely well made, as I say. Good stitching all around. I like the fact that it's been branded, so it's not a generic cover. One thing I will say, there's quite a lot of Velcro. I mean, I think it's typical. Most scopes are designed in this way, but to me, it's a bit of a strange one because if you're trying to keep silent and undetected, lots of Velcro is quite tricky to. If you want to remove that without making a lot of noise, you have to be very careful. I mean, even if it's staying on your scope, you won't have to actually open and close this, but even a zip makes quite a lot of noise. Perhaps there's a manufacturer out there who can come up with a better idea or a better solution. Okay, so as you can see, the cover itself comes off very quickly and easily from the scope, which is nice. Sometimes they can be a bit too tight. You want them tight, but not too tight, because then it's a pain real. Sometimes I've had some scopes where takes ages to take. I mean, off is usually a bit easier than on, but it takes them ages to put off and on, and then you eventually just can't be bothered and don't do it anymore. So anyway, there's the stay-on cover. I'd rate that as being pretty good. It looks, from first impressions, without trying it, that looks like quite a nice cover. Okay, so the first look at the scope. Let's take it out of its packaging. Throw that away. Okay, so let's have a look. From first looks, it's a really nice looking scope. I like the shape and the feel. It looks very similar to the Endurance ED scopes that I've tested in the past. And I think that Hawke have updated them recently, but from the actual general appearance, they look fairly similar. I'm not sure if they've always had this big dip here. That looks quite nice, but I've never tested a 60mm one before. I've tested the Endurance 50mm and the 85mm, the large one, many years back. So yeah, so from first looks, it looks like a tiny little scope. It feels, really quite compact. That's really easy to carry about, and in general looks nicely well made. I do like the outer covering. This is a bit more textured over here, so that feels nice. I mean, not that you're going to be holding it like a binocular or anything. It just feels nice though. It's always nice to have a nice looking and feeling instrument in your hands. I will say that the body is quite reflective. Not too bad though. I mean, if you're worried about reflectivity and giving your position away or something like that, then you would keep the stay-on cover on, because obviously that's going to absorb light rather than reflect it. Okay, so what should we talk about first? The first thing that stands out to me is, okay, let's go with the foot. The bigger scopes have quite often will have a collar that the foot fits onto, and you can actually unscrew it and then rotate the collar, the foot around the body of the scope. Sometimes this can be useful if your tripod's on level ground, or something like that, so you can just position it so that you can get a good view through the eyepiece. It's quite common for compact scopes like this to forego that collar, which is the case with this one, just to keep the size and the weight down, I think. So that's one thing, that if you do get a smaller scope, generally you're gonna not have that collar, which just, I don't use it that often. There's times that I'm on unsteady ground, or uneven ground, and your tripod is at an angle and you want to sort of just compensate for that. But that's a rare occasion. So that's one thing. Okay, so let's just look at the actual foot itself. I like the fact, it's not massive, but this is a small lightweight scope. I like the fact it's got the pin over there. So if we quickly take a look, I've got one of these ready. So just pretend this is your tripod head over here, and this is the mounting plate. As you can see, it's got one of these locking pins. So firstly, you've got the rubber, just so that if, let's say you mounted it this way around, I didn't use the pin at all. Let's quickly do this. Oh, come on. It's quite hard actually hanging over the camera and doing this. So just forgive me a little. Right, so yeah, so the rubber does actually hold it. I didn't tighten that too tightly, but that's quite a firm purchase over there. But it could actually turn, as you can see, if you'd really put some pressure on it, and that's quite annoying on a tripod. So obviously with these pins, if you line it up with that pin in the plate over there, you can see, hold on, focus camera, there we go. So yeah, that fits in that little hole over there, that recess. Tighten it up now there's no chance of it sliding about. So that's really quite nice. It's a really minor thing, but when you're doing stuff like digiscoping and that, and you might have a heavy camera, let's say you're doing it with this SLR camera on the back, it can get quite heavy, and you want just everything to be secure and as safe as possible. I like the fact also, this is a little sign of quality, this is a brass inset over here. Cheaper scopes will often just have plastic or something like that, and it just shows that just a better quality and less chance of it threading or anything like that. So that's all good. Next, let's talk about the focus wheels. As you can see, they've got two focus wheels over here. So it's a dual speed gearbox, as it were. Something I don't quite know the wording for that. But the back, the slightly larger focus wheel, is for quickly going, adjusting your focus over a wide range very quickly. And then once you get sort of close to where you want to be, you can really fine tune the focus. I'm not sure on the gearing difference. It's usually about 10-1 or something like that. I've had in the past, so you have to do 10 rotations of this wheel to make one rotation of that, or the other way around, 1 for 10. But my first impression of the focus wheel is it's very, very smooth. It's got a very light action. In some ways this is good, because it's, you just need to, when you on your tripod there, you just need to very lightly touch it and it'll change the focus. There's no sticking points at all. Let me go all the way around from one point to the other. So inside there'll be a focusing mirror, and it's the gearing there will move the mirror slightly to adjust the focus, so the light focuses. But yeah, there's no sticking points at all, so that the mechanism inside just is working perfectly. And that's definitely something I look forward for in scopes. Often lesser quality ones, it'll be rough and tight and things like that. So that's really nice. I really do like that. Little thing I like, the fact it's branded on the wheel. It's not generic. Okay, so there we go. Let's have a look. As we can see here, it's got a lens cover on the actual objective lens. Sorry, I lost my train of thought a little there. Yeah, it fits nicely onto the actual we've got a shield as well, the sun shield. It fits nicely on there, as you can see. It's easy to put back and easy, and not too easy to come away. It doesn't come away too easily, sorry, excuse me, so that it's going to come away by accident. So that's all good, but what I will say is it's quite generic. This is sort of the kind of cover you see on many scopes. So probably made in bulk somewhere and shipped out to hundreds of manufacturers, which is a bit of a shame, because this is a higher end scope, and so it would have been nice for Hawke to have a purposely made, I mean, it's a very small thing, lens cover, perhaps one that fitted inside the actual shield over here, just that it just looks more a part of the instrument rather than just being an afterthought, as it were. But having said that, it's going to do the job that it's intended for. The rubber is, or the plastic, it's always hard to know, it's probably a combination of it, looks fairly robust, and I don't think this will break too easily. Quite often this is really thin and flimsy, especially on binoculars. I found it breaks quite often. So yeah, that's all. It's fine. It's I wouldn't go. I'm not going to rave about that lens cover, but it'll do the job. Okay, so here we can see we've got a sun shield, which is good. In general, they call it a sun shield, and just because when you pull it out, you can, just like a hood on a expensive camera that a photographer will use, in certain light conditions, it can stop lens flare and things like that happening. But in my experience, where it also comes in real handy is if you're out and about in say light rain and drizzle. This hood can actually prevent water from falling onto the lens, and then just in general day-to-day use, it obviously protects the lens from being scratched and also from dust. So I personally try and keep it extended as much as possible. This is made of plastic. The actual hood itself, I think underneath here, that's metal. Looks metal to me, feels metal. What I will say is it fits nicely onto it. Sometimes they can be too loose or too tight. This one is just about the right level of friction, so that you can position it, it'll stay where you want without going. It's quite annoying if they slide back all the time and that. And anyway, so this one's perfect. That's all good. Right, so next let's move on to the eyepiece. Oh, maybe we should just, before we go there, let's have a look at the 60mm objective lens. The optics on this scope, on the little research I've done, or what I know about them, is it's fully multi-coated, meaning that every single lens element, so over here you'll have the objective lens made up of a number of elements. You'll have a focusing lens somewhere in here, and then obviously the lenses in the eyepiece that make up the eyepiece. All those elements will be have multiple coatings of an anti-reflection coating on them, which makes a noticeable difference compared to optics, binoculars and scopes that are only multi-coated or single-coated and things like that. So cheaper optics will only put coatings on the outer lenses, for example, and miss all the ones inside. And you really can notice a difference in image quality, image brightness when they do that. Obviously, they do it to save money because it costs less. So it's good to know that these are fully multi-coated. So as you can see, it's going to have ED glass in the actual lenses, which will help with things like chromatic aberration, so that color fringing that you see around the edges of objects in the view. It's quite important. You generally see color fringing. Becomes more obvious the higher the magnification. So having an ED glass on your spotting scope can make actually quite a noticeable difference compared to ones without ED glass of the same quality. On top of that, inside they have, I believe it's a pyroprism. The main prism, erecting prism, so a prism inside it is to invert the image, is a pyroprism, so which is good because it's more efficient than a roof prism. But then on top of that, I do know that the Endurance ED is highlighted or advertised as having dielectric coatings. Now, pyroprisms don't need any coatings because 100% of the light that hits them comes out of them, so they don't require any mirror coatings. So you may be wondering then, why have they got it? Why have they advertised it with a mirror coating? Well, I think for angle scopes, and I'm not 100% sure on this. Actually, hopefully someone down in the comments down there if you do know. I think with angle spotting scopes, you'll have another prism over here just to reflect the light at the 45-degree angle. I think this is a 45. Yes, it looks 45. And on that mirror prism over there, I think that's the one that they'll put the dielectric coatings on. Now, the fact that they use dielectric coatings wherever this prism is fantastic, because cheaper scopes and cheaper binoculars that do have roof prisms will use lesser quality and cheaper coatings. So, for instance, they'll have either silver or aluminium coatings, which are cheaper, but don't reflect as much light. So the difference will be you'll get a much higher image quality and brightness. So in terms of optics, these are, up there with what, got all the stuff that you want to hear about. The scope itself is completely waterproof and filled with nitrogen gas, I think it is, just to make it fog proof as well, so the internal lenses don't fog up. Right, so onto the eyepiece. It's got a cover over there, which fits nicely over the eyepiece. It's not going to come away too easily, which is another thing to look forward to. I mean, again, it's very simple. Let's get it in focus. Isn't unbranded, but does the job as intended. All right, so here's so they've got twist up eyepiece. Oh, it's a really nice twist up mechanism on there. It feels very smooth. It's a bit of a different design than I'm used to, and I think this is definitely something new. I don't remember the older Endurance EDs having this design of eye cup. I do like the look of it. It looks really nice, and the actual action of it is very, very smooth. You'll notice it doesn't have any click stops, which is interesting. But having said that, if I position it halfway, even by pressing quite firmly down, it seems to stay in place, which is good. I mean, if I press really hard, it starts twisting, but that should be more than enough friction to, enable you to position the cup at any point that suits you. So should you wear glasses or something, you would no doubt have the eye cup position probably right at its minimum point, just so that you can have the glasses and your eyes at the right distance to the actual lens. Yeah, so that's actually a really nice eye cup. I think this has, come on, this camera is not focusing. There we go. 20 millimeters of eye relief, which is plenty, as you can see over there. So lots of room to maneuver and get your eye exactly the right distance behind the eyepiece to ensure that you get the full field of view. Okay, so here we go. So this scope is supplied with as we can see, a zoom or a variable magnification eyepiece. And on this focal length, it'll take us from 15 times all the way to 45 times. So three times the natural to the magnified. The actual adjustment of the magnification, I like this big track over here. It's nice and easy to reach and turn. Once again, as with the focus wheel, it's really smooth. I mean, it's a bit tighter than the focus wheel, which is normal, but it feels very nice and smooth. I mean, if you wanted to use your whole hand and that, yeah, that's good. It feels very nice. I'd rate that very highly. And as you can see, the eyepiece itself looks like a very high quality piece of kit. It's all metal parts, not the plastic ones that I sometimes see. Okay, so let's definitely unscrew the eyepiece. So sometimes, on cheaper ones, it looks like you can, and then, if you go too hard, you're going to break the seal and the glue in there. Right, so let's have a quick look. Let's put the scope down for a bit over there. So here's the actual eyepiece itself. Feels chunky. As you can see, it's very nicely made. So a good thing about scopes like this that have a removable eyepiece is that you can obviously swap them around and replace it with a scope that, or replace it with an eyepiece that suits a different type of application. So you might have a wide angle eyepiece for viewing, obviously, the faster moving subjects at closer range. I'm not entirely sure that on the threading, on size it is. I'll find out and put it in the review. Once I've written the review, I'll put a link down at the bottom, but for the moment I don't know that sort of information. I'll find out and add it to the review. But yeah, in general they have a fairly standardized threading, and so you should be able to find different eyepieces without too much problem. So this fits on very nicely. So there you go. Not too much more I think about that I can talk about just for my initial impressions, but in my initial thoughts on the scope, as with most of the other Endurance ED instruments, both binoculars and scopes that I've tested from Hawke, it looks to be extremely good quality and generally offer extremely good value for money. Obviously, once I've had time to test it and fully review it, my opinions will be far more exacting, but from first impressions, I'm pretty impressed. It does look like a very nice piece of kit. It's nice and lightweight, and as you can see, it's quite a compact little scope. So there you have it. I do hope that my unboxing and initial thoughts on the scope have been of both use and of interest to you. If they have, and actually, indeed, even if they haven't, please feel free to comment down below. Just in this way, it will really help me gauge as to whether I should continue to bring you this type of video in the future. Also, depending on when you come across this video, I may have since had time to fully test and write up the review. If I have, I will leave a link down in the description below. So other than to say, if you did enjoy this video, I would really appreciate a thumbs up. And if at all possible, please do remember to subscribe, as it really does help me to continue to bring you more and more content in the future. So I'll leave it there for now. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Cheers for now.